Alright, so we're going to talk about the brand new released Dragon Ball Super Volume 10 bonus pages that Toyotaro drew for that new release that came out in Japan here on this video. But first I want to do a quick plug over on Masako X's channel. I did my first ever English dub, and please be easy on me because it was my first time, but I was on episode 4 of Masako X's R&R, so please head over there and check it out. I will leave a link down below. I had a lot of fun doing it. I don't know if I'm ever going to really be a voice actor or anything, but it was so much fun to do and work with Masako, and the episode was a lot of fun. So check it out. I will leave a link, of course, down below for Dragon Ball R&R. So let's go ahead and hop over here to these brand new pages. Now, to explain what's going on here, whenever they put out a Dragon Ball Super like volume, which is basically the manga chapters compiled together, like when it's not a digital release, but an actual physical release, but there is of course a digital version. Sometimes Toyotaro will draw extra pages to add lore to the story, and in this case he actually added some lore to some Dragon Ball Z stuff and brought up some characters that we haven't seen in a very long time, including the fate of one character that almost nobody remembers, but to me is very interesting. So what I want to do with you guys here is go through these pages, tell you what it says. We do have translations, and kind of discuss it, because to me it's always interesting when this happens. Now, of course, Dragon Ball Super Manga Volume 10 features the I think it's part 2 or part 3 of the Galactic Patrol Prisoner arc. It has not been released by Viz yet. Obviously, you can read the individual chapters on the website, but the compilation version with all the chapters in there won't be out for a few more months, at least as far as the English version goes. But we do have this translation courtesy of our old friend Herms. Herms has been like semi-retired since Super ended. Well, actually right around like the Broly time, he kind of quasi-retired, but it's really good to see him come back and provide translations for us. So let's go ahead and get started here. So the narrator says here in age 762, as Goku's battle with the invader Vegeta ended, far across the universe on planet Frieza 79, preparations for a certain plan had begun. Now, what planet Frieza 79 is, and that's the planet that Vegeta landed on after his fight with Goku. So these deleted scenes here, obviously they were not written by Toriyama, even though I think he may have approved them. We don't really know yet. But Toyotaro is kind of creating this little mini story after the Saiyan saga, before the Namek arc. Like during that time, you know, as you can see right here, Goku's near death and Vegeta's about to escape. Dragon Ball Z episode 35, those of you who are watching the anime version. And then while that's going on, Zarbon has a meeting with Frieza Soldiers, sort of like preparing us for the Namek arc, and I really enjoyed this. I always like these kind of what happened when stories. I'm always a big fan of them. So Zarbon says, we'll now go with Lord Frieza to planet Namek to gather the Dragon Balls. Then Dodoria says, this is a top secret. No, I'm not going to voice act. I will not do that. Like I said, check Masako's channel for my voice. This is a top secret mission using only the minimum number of personnel, so do your best. So they're already talking about how when they go to Namek, it's going to be a top secret mission, which is why the Ginyu Force didn't head over there right away. Same thing with the other members of Frieza's forces. You know, Tagoma, Sorbet, which we found out about later, and all the other members of his empire, King Cold. There was no need to do that. There was no need at all to do it because it's Namekians. Frieza can handle them by himself, as we saw. And I'd also remember, like we talked about recently in the Dragon Ball Super manga, Vegeta is going to Yardrat, and we recently talked about how the Ginyu Force was originally on their way to Yardrat, which is why when Goku took over the ship, when Namek blew up, he wound up on Yardrat. So going on, Cranberry, who's this guy right here. If you remember those episodes on Namek where they're like screwing around with the villagers, I'm gonna show you guys here in a second. He's one of those soldiers, and Cranberry says, Dragon Balls, those really exist. And then Zarbon says, don't speak out of turn. We don't need soldiers who don't follow orders. I can kill you right now, which is foreshadowing. Cranberry apologizes, and the narrator says that Cranberry was one of the soldiers who went to Namek. However, he was beaten by the young warriors of Elder Murray's village, which we're going to get to here on the next page, right here. This is like the early Namek arc where we saw we're going to talk about what happened after. But yeah, if you remember, he kind of was a jabroni. I mean, let's be real about it. But there's a new story here with him. So here on page 2, the narrator says, ultimately killed by Zarbon's kick. So if you remember, he got kicked by Zarbon into the water. Well, what happened was some time passed, and in the middle of Goku and Frieza's battle on Namek, a certain wish was granted. And if you remember, Mr. Popo asked the dragon on Earth to resurrect those killed by Frieza's men, Frieza and his men, which is how Vegeta came back to life. Saichoro, the Grand Elder, known as Guru in the Z-dub, he came back to life. Dende came back to life, and Cranberry came back to life. And this is interesting. Even though Cranberry's not a major character, it's still pretty interesting. So he goes on to say, it actually says, please resurrect all those killed by Frieza and his men. The narrator says, of course, Cranberry was resurrected too, since he was killed by Zarbon, one of Frieza's men. He then managed to escape from Namek in Vegeta's space pod. I'm not going back to Frieza's army, he says. He continued hiding from Frieza's army before being caught by the Galactic Patrol, and Jocko wound up catching him eventually. So it looks like Jocko was the one who apprehended him. So to me, again, these little pages, they're not like groundbreaking information, but they're always interesting when Toro can go back to like Dragon Ball and Z and give us like extra deleted scenes. Also, I wanted to clarify some things here. Here is the original manga scene where Zarbon killed him, right? Those of you who watched the anime or read the manga, he was dead at that point. And here, I want to thank Skyswipe for this. Just to clarify this, when Dende made the wish to bring back those people who died, to resurrect those who Babidi killed and were evil, that's a totally different wish. The wish that's at the end of Dragon Ball Z. The wish that Popo made was restore the life of beings that were killed by Frieza and his men, including ones that were Frieza's men. So all those guys that Frieza wound up killing, and there were quite a few of them out of anger that were working for him, they all came back to life. Cranberry survived until he got caught. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have for you today in this video. I think it's cool. I wish we saw more of this kind of stuff, and I think we will in the future. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time.